So here is an update of my review of the Heljan Tango 280 freight locomotive, and I've run it in now, and that in itself was a bit of a tale, so I'll tell you exactly what happened running in this loco. But now I've got it pulling a nice long mineral train. I'll count up the number of wagons in a second. So here she is. Running in proved to be a surprisingly difficult task with this locomotive. Why? Because it kept derailing. Now, my track isn't laid perfectly, but most of my locomotives will go round most of the time without derailing. And in fact, I've only got 2 or 3 locos that do occasionally derail, and they're all quite big ones. A couple of the Hornby super detailed Pacifics just occasionally will derail on a slightly bit of uneven track. Cock of the North, which is a 282, that also occasionally derails. And I've got a couple of awkward coaches that seem to not like the imperfections in my track. But most of my locos run fine. In contrast, this Heljan model derailed every which way I tried to run it around my layout. I've got two complete ovals, so I could run it on the inner or the outer. I could run it clockwise or anti-clockwise on each. I could run it forward and backwards on each. And initially, I could only run it in one of those 8 possibilities without it derailing. So, was there a fault in the locomotive? Or was it just that as a 280, it's got quite a rigid chassis, and that was causing problems? What I discovered was that there was very little side play in the driving wheels of the locomotive, so that although it would go left or right round a corner, it had to do it fairly gently, and any slight sudden change in direction seemed to be a bit too much for it. Now, fortunately, with running in, that stiffness of sideways movement of the axles has lessened, so they do now slide from side to side slightly more easily. I'll show you what I mean in a second. So here are the locomotive driving wheels. If I just show you, they zoom in. Sorry, it's a bit dark there, but you can see that the rear wheels in particular can move forward and backwards quite a lot. The central two are slightly more fixed, but there is quite a bit of side play. Now that's good. You need that to go around train set curves. But when I first got it out of the box, it was much stiffer, whereas now it's moving very freely from side to side. And that was what was causing the problem. So to run the loco in, I actually had to, first of all, alter some of my track work a bit. Fortunately, the place it was derailing on the outer oval was in the fiddle yard, and that hasn't been ballasted or any scenery added to it, so it was fairly easy to alter the bit of track work. I say fairly easy, it took me about an hour in total, but I needed to do that anyway because that's where a couple of other locomotives had occasionally derailed. So having sorted out the track work and everything running smoothly there, I now have a Heljan Tango that has been run in both directions for an hour each way, and it is running superbly, very, very silently and very smoothly. One criticism of this model made in another video online is that it didn't have particularly good pulling power. Its tractive effort wasn't up to that of the thing it was meant to represent. Well, I'm not sure. Here's my model, and it's pulling 30 coal wagons. They're not actually fully loaded with coal. They've got cardboard and coal, But it goes to show that it's got a pretty good haulage capacity and it can pull these wagons at a very nice scale speed. So I am absolutely thrilled with the haulage capabilities of this model. I tend to find with the relatively tight curves that I've got on this layout that actually the limit to how long a train I run is how likely the wagons are to pull each other off the track when they go around the curves, not the inability of the engine to pull them. And certainly this one is proving capable of pulling virtually every single coal wagon I've got, smoothly and powerfully. So there we have it, the Heljan Class O2 Tango. Not a perfect model, but nowhere near as bad as some people have suggested. And I'm a bit concerned that that's based on maybe just receiving a duff model. Yes, there are things about it that aren't perfect, and I was a bit disappointed that it was so difficult to run it in the first place. But the other minor niggles are things that I could easily sort out myself, like the shiny handrails and the shiny axle ends on the driving wheels. Other than that, a superb running locomotive. Simple, plain, but nicely finished, and none of the faults that other people have referred to about sort of glue marks or fingerprints are present on my model. So I can only assume that maybe they just got a duff one that was I don't know, what we used to call a Friday afternoon model in this country. Okay, that's it. I hope you appreciate this review and this update on what is a somewhat maligned model. I think it's really good myself.